The Canon R6 Mark II is one of the best cameras in the world because it combines gorgeous image quality with ultra high speed shooting at an absolutely unbeatable price. But 3 years later, it's kind of old. And there's a lot of better looking, better built, and faster cameras out there. And some are even more affordable. Plus, with the R6 Mark III on the way, is the R6 Mark II still worth it? Also, I'll leave links down below with the best pricing on the R6 Mark II. So let's start with what exactly makes the R6 Mark II so popular in the first place, and what are the unique combination of specs and features that people love about this camera, especially at this price point. Well, on the surface, the R6 Mark II has a pretty typical 24 megapixel full frame sensor, but it's actually hiding a lot underneath the hood. The 24 megapixel sensor is plenty of resolution for serious photo editing and heavy cropping. So if you're shooting something like portraits, landscapes, wildlife, sports, where you really need to fine tune your composition, and this is going to be more than enough resolution. And this test by James Reeder shows how close the quality of the R6 Mark II is to the much more expensive 45 megapixel sensor in the Canon R5 II. And the Canon R6 Mark II also delivers high quality video at 4K and 6K resolution with very impressive frame rates that we will get into later. Now, let's talk about what the R6 Mark II sensor is hiding underneath the hood. First up are the colors. Everything from this camera just looks warm and rich right out of camera, especially skin tones. So if you're shooting a lot of portraits, a lot of nature, anything where colors really matter, this camera is going to give you great colors right off the bat. But if you're a serious shooter and you're going to be doing a lot of color grading and editing to your photos and videos, the stock colors don't really matter because you're going to change them later on anyways, but it does give you a great starting point. However, one thing that everyone can appreciate is the high ISO or low light performance of the R6 Mark II sensor. You can literally shoot anywhere, anytime, even with small lights. So this sensor is perfect for travel, lifestyle, or just any kind of challenging situation where most cameras will struggle, because you can crank the ISO as high as 6400 or 12800 with very little grain. But for me, what really sets the R6 Mark II apart is the speed. By shooting faster in both photos and video, you can capture more frames per second, and you can capture fast action more precisely. Meaning if you're shooting something like sports, birds, street style, just something where you only get one shot to capture the perfect photo, you will not miss your shot. In fact, this camera shoots so fast, it is basically impossible to miss your shot. In mechanical shutter mode, the R6 Mark II shoots at a really healthy 12 frames per second, but most cameras are around 10 to 11 frames per second anyways. However, if you get into electronic shutter mode, the R6 Mark II can actually shoot as fast as 40 frames per second. That is faster than real-time video, which is about 24 or 30 frames per second. So it is literally impossible to miss your shot. But there is one downside. In mechanical shutter mode, you get 14-bit RAW, which is going to give you the best image quality and the most amount of flexibility when it comes to editing your photos, especially when it comes to color. But when you're shooting electronic shutter, you're only shooting 12-bit RAW. So you are going to get less dynamic range, less flexibility with your colors when editing. However, before you panic, unless you're a professional shooting $10,000 fashion campaigns, you will never be able to push the camera that hard where you will actually notice. And for the average consumer, which this camera is aimed at, you will never notice. So I don't think this is that big of a deal. However, if you do want 14-bit RAW in all of your frame rates, I have something for you later on in this video. Now, one very important thing when you're shooting high-speed photos or video is your autofocus. And the R6 Mark II has very accurate autofocus because it's actually the same autofocus as the higher-end, more expensive Canon cameras. So you're basically going to get professional level autofocus despite this being a significantly cheaper camera, so you will have no problems shooting high-speed photography or video. And it also has AI subject detect to automatically recognize animal, people, and cars, so no matter what you're shooting, the autofocus simply will not let you down. Now, let's talk about the most exciting part of the Canon R6 Mark II. Yes, even more impressive than the photos, and that is the video resolution and frame rates. The R6 Mark II can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second, and it's also downsampled from 6K. So your 4K video really has the detail and resolution of 6K, but in a smaller file size, and it can also do full HD up to 180 frames per second for ultra slow motion. And all of this without any sort of compromise or drop in quality or cropping into your image. Most cameras, when you go into a higher frame rate or higher resolution, they have to crop into your sensor, and it kind of ruins your composition and the actual video quality. But the R6 Mark II maintains video quality all the way through, and all of the frame rates can also be shot in 10-bit C-Log3 for professional color grading, or 8-bit color in standard video. But here's the best part about the R6 Mark II when it comes to video, because it can also shoot 6K ProRes RAW up to 60 frames per second, basically making the R6 Mark II a proper cinema camera if you want it to be. However, you do need an external recorder like the Ninja 5. However, a Ninja 5 used is only about $500, so as you get better with your R6 Mark II and you ever want a proper cinema camera, or you just want more power from your camera, you can easily upgrade it for $500 instead of buying a brand new camera. And you can rent a Ninja 5 for about $40 a day, making the R6 Mark II a camera you can actually grow with. Now, we have to talk about design, but I don't want to waste your time. It's a pretty typical mirrorless camera, but I will tell you 3 things I love about the design and 1 thing that I honestly despise. First up, it has dual SD card slots, so you can actively back up your photos and videos as you shoot them, or have a second card for overflow. And the viewfinder is absolutely amazing. It's basically 4K resolution with a really big screen, so it's a really immersive shooting experience, and the viewfinder also has 120 Hz per second, making it so that there's no lag or stuttering when shooting high-speed photos. And yes, this will help you keep up with the action and get better shots. Lastly, it also has in-body stabilization that's going to give you sharper photos and smoother video when shooting handheld, especially if you're whipping your camera around for high-speed shots. And if you pair it with a stabilized Canon lens, you basically don't need a tripod. Now, speaking of lenses, this is the one problem that I have with the R6 Mark II and really every Canon RF camera. You have to buy the official Canon lenses or the official third-party lenses. This does make sure that you get the best image quality and the best autofocus performance, but the lens selection is really small compared to other brands like Sony, Nikon, Fuji, and even Olympus. But I will give Canon credit that they do have a large selection of very affordable black STM lenses, and Sigma and Tamron are now also making lenses for the RF system, so the lens selection is growing, but it's something that everyone should know about before they pick up an RF camera. But personally, I just don't like being locked into a system, especially when other brands give you so much freedom, making this the perfect time to talk about how does the R6 Mark II compare to the competition, and should you still pick up an R6 Mark II today when the R6 Mark III is right around the corner? Well, it depends, specifically on what you like to shoot and whether you shoot photos or video. If you want more lens options, basically every other brand is going to give you more lens options. But if you want to shoot photos at the highest frame rates possible, believe it or not, the R6 Mark II is still one of the best options unless you want to upgrade to a $5,000 or $6,000 Sony A1 or an A9 III, which is going to be almost a $10,000 setup with the high-speed lenses. However, if you want the speed of the R6 Mark II and you want to pay less, believe it or not, Canon actually makes the Canon R8, which does about 90% of everything the R6 Mark II does for $1,000 less. You still get 40 frames per second electronic shutter and 4K at 60. The only thing you're missing is the mechanical shutter, because the R8 is 6 frames per second mechanical shutter, and for video, it does not do raw video. But other than that, it's basically the same camera in a smaller body with a smaller battery and a grip and all that. So if you don't need a camera for professional work, chances are the R8 is good enough. But if you do want to shoot high-speed photos and videos, and you also want to shoot 14-bit RAW in every single frame rate for photos, the Nikon Z6 III is actually your best option. It can do slower speeds at 20 frames per second electronic shutter, but everything is in 14-bit RAW. But if you don't need to edit your photos and you simply want to capture the action, the Z6 III can also shoot 60 frames per second in JPEG mode or 120 frames per second with an APS-C crop. Absolutely insane performance, and if you're an average user that just wants to capture action, the Z6 III is really, really fast. And when it comes to video, it can also do 6K up to 60 frames per second internally in RAW video. It can shoot Nikon RAW, ProRes RAW 422 HQ. It's a really impressive camera. I've shot a project with it. I've gotten beautiful results. So if you're looking to do professional video, the Z6 III will be way better. But if you don't need it for professional work, The file sizes on the R6 Mark II are smaller, easier to handle, and I actually recommend the R6 Mark II for the average shooter. And naturally, Canon knows this and they want to be competitive, which is why the R6 Mark III is right around the corner. And the specs for this camera have been leaked to infinity. Most likely, we're going to get a 34 megapixel full frame sensor that's also going to shoot 40 frames per second electronic shutter just like the R6 Mark II, and chances are it's going to do 14-bit RAW in electronic shutter instead of 12-bit RAW. The main upgrade that you're going to get in the R6 Mark III is going to be the video performance. It's going to do 7K up to 60 frames per second internally with RAW video, with open gate for social media and anamorphic, and it will definitely cost significantly more than the R6 Mark II. Chances are it's going to cost anywhere between $3,400 to maybe as low as $2,500 or $2,800, but it's going to be an expensive camera. So unless you're ready to drop some serious cash on a new camera, I do not recommend waiting for that camera. The R6 Mark II is a phenomenal value for your money, and you would be hard pressed to find a better deal in the camera space considering everything the camera does. But apart from that, for the average user, you are going to get the best bang for your buck with the R6 Mark II, and it's still a great deal even today. And if you want to make sure you get the best pricing on the R6 Mark II, check out the links down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.